Space say about your world and about your reality? It's been said that Einstein has a messy desk, so maybe everybody should have a messy desk. But whether you're neat or tidy or you're a ton of chaos and borderline hoarder, you're going to want to listen to today's episode all about learning about what does your personal space create. See you soon. Your mind is a beautiful thing, but if left unattended, it can get ugly real quick. If you're not constantly curating the content your mind consumes on a daily basis, then your surroundings will dictate your daily thoughts, habits, behaviors, and actions. This show has only one goal: to leave your mind more beautiful than it was when you arrived. Welcome to the Beautiful Mind Show. Welcome to today's Beautiful Minds show. Whether you're on with us live or you're watching or listening later, it's good to have you here. Pumped to have you on. Today's guest with me is Sean Stearns out in Pensacola, Florida. What is going on, Sean?
What's up, Jason? How's it going, man?
Dude, glad to have you on. Always good to have you back on the show. Sean's one of the trainers with us inside our company, and does a lot of mindset work in the areas of leadership. He's one of our Little Voice Mastery coaches. Works with a ton of the leaders inside different programs, our leadership development program that he runs. And it's always good to have you on, Sean, because I think you work a ton on mindset. We were talking about this subject today: is what does your personal space create, right? The environment that you keep around you. And I think there's really three areas that are really critical to your personal space, right? There's your physical space, like the space around you and the environment that's around you that you keep. And then there's also your mental space. Like, what do you allow to consume and occupy your mind? What's that mental space you keep? And then what's the relational space, the people that you allow to come into your space that can potentially impact your space? And I want to talk about all three of those today and really help serve and create some opportunity there. So sound like a plan for today, Sean?
Yeah, man, ready to rock and roll.
Dude, let's discuss it. And by the way, do me a favor, guys. Would you comment and tell us where you are on from? It really helps me to kind of know, where we've got listeners and viewers. So do me a favor, type in the city. And if you are, I want to also know this. Type in whatever city you're from, and then I want to know: Are you messy? Are you clean? Are you mostly dirty? Mostly organized? Like, what type of space do you keep? Right? Because Sean, I'll sell myself out here, man. I'm one of those people with the space that I create is I'm a whirlwind cleaner. Do you know what I'm talking about? Is like, I kind of like keep spaces crazy because I'm like active and I want to keep things out and like I know where everything is. And then like, one day I get sick of it and I just go through and I like clean house. I clean everything, right? It's like, I like blitz it. Like that's probably the way to say it, is I'm a blitz cleaner. And I clean up everything and it's immaculate. And then slowly I kind of like leave, I better leave this out. I better leave this out. And then it kind of starts trickling in again. And then I blitz everything again and it's back to magical. And that's kind of how I work. So what are you guys? Type in the chat. Are you a clean freak? Are you messy is where your mind works? What about you? And what about you, Sean? What type of space do you keep around you usually?
Man, it's interesting you say that because I would say I'm very similar to you in, like, for example, my car, right? I'm a whirlwind cleaner of the car. So like I'll let my car get kind of cluttered. And then I hit a point where I'm like, okay, this has got to stop. And then I completely like clean it and detail the whole thing.
Right. I'll go like a Q-tip and like clean the vents is how much I'll clean my car.
But it's interesting because like my home is different. Like my home, I'm consistently cleaning. Like I can't stand clutter in the house. I can't stand dishes in the sink. It really like, that's where my anxiety gets going is like, if my house is messy, I clean it right away. But like my car, I'll do the whole whirlwind clean. I'll let it get kind of messy. And so I don't, that could be just like, that's my living space. So in order for me to feel comfortable and relaxed and have my headspace in the right place, then I've got to have like a clean environment.
Yeah, and I think all of us have these spaces, right? We have like our own house, our own room, like our bedroom, our house, our car, our office space, right? We have all of those things. Your drawers, how organized are your drawers? And I'm not talking about, these drawers. I'm talking about the drawers in your house. Like if you were to open the cabinets, are they organized, back there? Like what's going on? And I think the reason for me bringing this up today on Beautiful Minds is that what ends up happening is that for so many people, they don't have, and by the way, Sean, I'm getting a little bit of echo. If you can turn yourself down just a smidgen, I think it might help. Anyway, but so many people, I think, get in this spot where they find like one space that they can keep really clean. Do you know what I'm saying? And I remember this when I was younger, and I think this is super helpful because a lot of people say like a healthy mind starts with like making your bed in the morning. Is it like it keeps your mental capacity really clean? Where it's like you make your bed instead of just leaving it messy. And like Sean, you're Navy, right? So I mean, like I assume that they taught you a large part of that as well. I feel like every Navy guy that I know is like meticulous about what they do and take care of and what they maintain and all of those things. And like we talk about how the mind is kept clean by a pristine environment. Was there anything that came out of that Navy for you specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you bring that up because I was actually going to talk about that since we're talking about like physical space. Yeah, I mean, like, look, it starts in boot camp when you first go to boot camp. I mean, everything, your sheets have to be folded in exact way with certain angles. Your blankets have to be folded in exact way. Your laundry has to be ironed. Even your underwear has to be ironed and folded in an exact way. And so what it does, it like creates this mindset of like everything's got to be neat and orderly. But you know what I found is, now look, at the time you don't really see it this way. You just see it as a big pain in the butt trying to do everything this way. And then when I went to air rescue school, it was even more to an extreme there as far as the neatness and tidiness. But what I really found was that in that time that I wasn't really conscious of at that time, but when I got out of the military, what I became conscious of was, man, I was so much more disciplined in everything that I did when I was in the military than I was when I had my freedom, as you would say, as a civilian.
Sure.
I noticed when I got out, I would put things off more. I would procrastinate more. I wouldn't be as disciplined. I'd say I was going to do something, but not do it as consistently I do in the military. So I realized that all of those little things about what we did with our environment, all the way down to making your bed, folding the sheet that exact certain angle, everything that we did, and now I see why they did it, it was to create a disciplined mindset and to create discipline and consistency. And I noticed a huge difference from when I was in and when I was out, to really like the discipline was huge. And I think most of us know, like, discipline is a huge thing a lot of us are really lacking.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, I would just say, like, Sean, you kind of said this. I'm just going to say it for myself. You can speak for yourself. But, I go through bouts where I'm more disciplined, and then I kind of relax on the discipline. And I realize, like, when I get further away from my discipline, it's like and I think this takes us to the next piece, right? Is that when my physical space becomes messier, my mental space becomes messier. And when my physical disciplines start getting out of sync, then I'm like, well, wait a second. Now my finances are starting to slip, or my relationships are starting. It's like that discipline starts in your physical space you create. And again, totally. Some of you guys, what are you? Are you a clean freak? Are you a blitzer? Are you a hoarder? Are you a messy is okay person? Do me a favor, type that in. I see Fallon's on here. She said she's a blitzer too. That doesn't surprise me, Fallon, at all. As I've known you for a while, like, you strike me as a blitzer. It sounds like how you operate, right? And I think, Sean, I think that really becomes that, like, what does your space look like? Like, I had a buddy who we used to work with. His name is Dustin, and Dustin was a great dude, but man, that guy was like what I would consider to be a absolute minimalist. Like, if he had a shelf, there would be one thing that sat on that shelf, and that was it. And it was very intentional. And you'd walk in and I'm like, bro, where are your pens? Like, I don't even know where your pens are. How do I write in your office? Because I don't even know. And then, like, in one drawer at the very back corner, tucked to the side, there was one pen that he would use. And he's like, I will allow you to use my pen. But man, that dude was one of the most disciplined guys I've ever met. And even his house was like that. I remember going over to his house, and, he and his wife kept a very, it was like, they didn't have, what was it? There was all kinds of things they just didn't have in their house because we just don't need it. We don't want it. They were minimalist. They were like, we don't want microwaves in our house. We don't want anything. And they just had everything like stripped of their entire house, just down to some very essentials. And I think when you have that much space and you have that much opportunity, it creates a lot of room for other things that are not taking up that mental space. Because what I want you to hear is that in your mental inventory, you can only keep track of so many things. Does that make sense? You can only keep track of so many. And so if your mind is occupied with the 250 things that are all over your house, or the 300 things that are in your car, or the 58 things that are in your office, somewhere that's taking up and occupying mental space in your reality, and you're like, I know where that is. I got to think about it because you didn't put it away. But when it's all put away and it's all tucked away, it actually frees up your mind to work on other problems and other tasks when they're needed.
Totally.
It's huge, right? If this is helpful for you guys, do me a favor and say helpful, because I think what I want to talk about, and I want to go a little further into, and by the way, we'll do this as soon as we come back, because I'm going to take a quick break. I want to take a quick break, and then I want to come back and talk about what is the relational space that you can create, and how do you create more space? How do you get more of it? How do you get rid of some of that clutter? How do you eliminate it so you can create more room for more relationships, more wealth in your life, better relationships? And how do you create more space in your physical space, especially if you live in a space that's not as big as you want it to be? All when we come right back with Sean talking about how do we create better use of your personal space. Let's do it. I'll see you guys in just a few seconds. Would you like to have an even more beautiful mind? Well, we'd like you to have one, and we actually created a 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, which is a little bit of a choose your own adventure challenge for just 7 days. And I really think you can do anything for 7 days. It's definitely not easy, but it will be simple for you to get access to it. All you have to do is comment anywhere on this video or send me a message on social media that says 7-day, and I'll send you immediate access to not only our Beautiful Minds Facebook group, but also our Beautiful Minds Challenge, where you can go through 3 different areas: your mental health, your emotional health, and your physical health, and get challenges in each of those areas that'll help you get a handle on each of those areas inside your life to give you more control over what you want to do every single day. So do me a favor, comment 7-day or send me a message on any social media, and I'll make sure I give you access to our exclusive community group as well as access to the challenge. Thanks so much, and now back to the show. Welcome back to the show. We're talking about what does your personal space create? And we're talking about how do you maintain your personal space, your physical personal space, your mental personal space, and your relationships. Sean, let's talk about the relationship personal spaces and how that can play out in your life. Because I think maintaining that space is a really, really big deal.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, right? And I think as we're talking about spaces, physical space, mental space, our relational space, there's something I've learned when it comes to space is I think there's things that, and think about in your relationships, there's things that we consciously do and consciously put in our space, right? So for example, an example of physical space, right, could be, if my office, I have a University of Texas bear, right? I intentionally put that there for somebody to say, for people to know, yeah, hey, maybe I went to the University of Texas, that's where I studied. Sure. So there's things that we can intentionally put in our space, but then I think on the other end of that, there's things that we subconsciously have in our space that can tell a lot about ourselves, our relationships, our personality traits, maybe our values that we're not very conscious of. So I think it's important in a relationship to say, what are the conscious things that we're putting in our space for this relationship, but also be really aware of what are the subconscious things that we're allowing to be in this space in our relationship. Maybe it's we're allowing social media, us to be on social media and our phones and we're supposed to be with each other. Maybe we notice that when we're out to eat, we allow social media to be in our space when maybe that should be a private time without social media.
Ouch. What, have you been hanging out at my house lately, Sean? Is that what's going on here, Doc? Is that what's happening? Look, I think everybody struggles with that one, man. If you guys feel like social media invades your space sometimes, and honestly, because we allow it to, but if you feel like it invades your space, do me a favor and say invades in the chat. And Sean, that's the truth, right? Is you said it really well. What do you allow to invade your space versus what's intentional in your space?
Right.
That's good. That's good. So how do you handle that, man? And how do you become more intentional about what's in your space?
Well, I mean, I think it has to do kind of like every other area of our life where we have these subconscious programs that we run. I think you have to make it a point to become conscious of it. You gotta, when you notice it, say, hey, look, I've noticed, and I think here's the thing, we all notice it's going on. It's just, are we doing anything about it? Are we calling it out? Hey, look, I've noticed, when we're home together, a majority of the time, I've noticed myself on my phone, I've noticed you on your phone. What if we just bring this to our conscious, we consciously see that it's in our space. So now it goes from our subconscious to our conscious. And now
Right.
and here's the thing, you've got to make a decision to take action. And what I say, I've had somebody say like, well, look, how do you find the dedication to do it? Right. Well, what I would say is like, look, once you're conscious of it, you have to ask yourself, is your relationship valuable enough to you to take action to change it when it comes down to it, right? And if it is, if your relationship's valuable enough to you, then you can say, all right, look, here's what we do. Maybe we'll set a rule to where, after 8:30, the phones go away. We do no social media whatsoever. And 8:30, the phones and all technology devices other than TV, maybe like all of those go away. And that's our time together. And that's the space we're going to create.
Yeah, I think the way I'd frame this in my mind, Sean, is how do you become the conscious curator of your own space? And if that makes sense to you, do me a favor and say conscious curator in the chat. But I think the idea is this conscious curation of the space around you. Like the reason why I want to talk about this today is we're in the middle of like revamping the whole office. Like most of you guys know, we just moved to a new office space. And so we have this whole new environment. It's all set up and it's a really great spot. And when we first moved in, it needed a lot of work in this space. We've been doing work, but my office has been kind of this like between space. Like I don't have it set up the way that I wanted to yet. And we just ordered some new furniture for it. So it's over the next 2 weeks, it's going to evolve and be even better. And I've just realized that like being in a space that's inviting and warm and is exactly what I'm after needs to be done in order to put my head in the right space. Because can I survive and function in a space that's not finished? Yeah. Like I can kind of live in remodel land for a little bit. But again, to your point, Sean, what is subconsciously does that say? Does it say that like mentally I'm not completely taken together? I'm not together right now to say all those things? I mean, look, you can make it say what you want. But I think the idea really becomes, how do you on an intentional basis become conscious and curate the space around you to say, well, when I walk into work today, what do I want it to feel like when I walk in the door? Like I know on my team, Molly, and I think she's probably listening to the show today, but like we walk in the door and like she intentionally is like this when we walk in every day. She's like this, right? She's like, good morning. And I was like, but that's intentional. Like it's an intentional, not like a, hey, what's up? Yeah, got crap to do. Like you could walk in, and again, my question is, who's greeting people at your business, right? What's the intentional impression that you want to leave? I remember walking into a business, or lots of business I've walked into, and like, have you ever walked into a business, Sean, and like they don't greet you when you walk in, or they're like, hold on, please, right? And you're like, I just walked in the door of the business that I'd like to give money to. Do you guys take my money here? Right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're like, wow. Yeah. Like it's just the greeting is such a big deal. Like what's the conscious curation of that? How are you building a relationship? What's the mental space? If there's stuff all over the floor in the environment that you're in, that makes it hard for you. You can't just push it aside and be like, oh, I'm gonna come and do this. And every day, Sean, when I wake up in the morning, I do meditation or breath work or working out every single morning. And I have to create a clean space to do that in. And I know when I'm doing it in a room that has other clutter, my ability to kind of block out the outside world and to just create an environment that's safe for me to operate in that capacity, to kind of start to do that. If I don't take the time to curate that space, it's going to create challenges, problems, and issues for the meditation, for my mental prep for the day. And it just doesn't feel the right way. Make sense?
Yeah, man. And I think that we're talking, I love how you worded that, like the conscious curator of your space. And I think here's the thing, it's just something we're not really conscious of a lot of the time. For example, I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you're someone that hits the snooze alarm. Okay, let's say you hit the snooze. I think we're all guilty of that at some point. If you're guilty of snoozing, put a snooze in the chat if you're guilty of snoozing. Now, look, what I would say is, to us, right, we may hit the snooze alarm. Okay, and whatever, snooze, we'll get 10 more minutes of sleep. But here's what we don't think about. What we do is we isolate it. We isolate in that moment. Yeah, so what, I hit the snooze. But what we don't think about is that behavior, how else and where else does that reflect in your life? Right? Think about it. If I get in the habit of snoozing, that's basically the habit of putting things off and not following through.
What else does
I said I was going to wake up.
What we're really saying is when there's something I don't want to do, I put it off until later. That's really what I'm saying.
Until I'm ready.
It's like I don't want to wake up this morning, so I'm going to put it off. So then you get that email from somebody at work that you need to handle, or there's that confrontation that you need to have because, somebody showed up late and you got to have a hard conversation, or you do that and you're like, well, let me just hit the snooze button on that for a second. And you mentally hit the snooze button because you go, there are so many other areas that I'm doing that in. And I think a lot of people miss that they do that in other areas. Yeah.
Yeah, because think about it. Think about when we're talking about space, I think it's now that we're talking about it, it's great because I think we could all be more aware of this area. Because think about it. If we can think of it, instead of just isolating it as, oh, my car's messy, or, oh, my office is messy, or, oh, the house is messy. Right. Instead of just isolating it as this is what it is, what if we started to think about, what is my space saying about me? What is my space saying about my values? What is my space saying about some personality traits I have right now?
It's good. I think the word I want to add to that, Sean, is what we think sometimes is isolated is actually amplified.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so if you take that thought and you go, okay, wait a second. What if I say my messy car, like my car's dirty today. It's driving me crazy. It's been dirty for the last 3 days. Like I'm getting my car clean today. It's just going to happen because I can't stand it. Right? There's all these little things. And there's this example that I heard a long time ago, a mutual friend of ours, Jane Johnson. By the way, shout out to Jane Johnson if she happens to listen to this episode. But Jane Johnson taught me this. It's called MEST, M-E-S-T, matter, energy, space, and time. Okay. Matter, energy, space, and time. So like the matter and the environment in which you keep, like I used to have a truck and had a dent in the side of this truck. And it used to just drive me crazy. Like every day I saw this dent in the side of the truck because I bought this cheap truck to drive around in, but that dent would make me insane. And one day I had a guy pop the dent out and I felt like a new human being. I didn't feel like, cause like I mentally felt dented. Like my matter, my energy, my space, my time had a dent in it. And until that car was undented, it was like occupying like this little fractional percent of my brain and my space. But it's like, the dirtiness of the car or the dent in the car or that, that thing at your house that you haven't fixed that's been bothering you for the last 6 months that's just taking up space. You're like, I know I need to do it, but it's still there. That takes up and it's all part of your MEST, your matter, energy, space, and time. And when you start cleaning up all of those things that are in your world, you're like, why do I feel like a new human being? And I see this all the time, Sean. It's like, you ever seen those cars that have been driving around with the whole side smashed in for like 6 months because it's now rusty in there, like they've never taken
on the windows.
Care of it? Yeah, they got the duct tape up there, and they're like, yeah, I had it smashed out, but I don't have money to fix it, so I'm going to leave it. I don't know why I talk like that when I have it smashed in my door. There's plenty of people who don't like talk like that. But it's like, that is keeping a level of personal space. And when you say it's okay to run around with my door smashed in or my window smashed in, whether it's a financial thing or not, you're telling the universe that it's okay to have something smashed or taken care of, or not taken care of. So I hope what you guys get out of today's episode is that the personal space you create has way more impact and way more amplification. That was the last thing we were just talking about, right? Is that you tend to isolate, but the universe or the world tends to amplify. And it amplifies the good just as well as it amplifies the bad. So if you want to start cleaning up your space, you want to start having more results in the area and direction you want to have in your life, start cleaning up your MEST, your matter, your energy, your space, and your time, and you will start to increase your results in all areas of your life. Sean, anything you want to say as we're wrapping, man?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say last thing, Jason, is like, think about it. Depending on where you want your mindset to be, where you want your happiness to be, what your goals are, I think it's really important for all of us to really start being more aware of, is the space around us? Are we creating the space around us that's adding value to our mindset and adding value to our goals and helping us get there? Or is it taking away from? If maybe I'm someone that deals with a lot of anxiety, is my space helping me cure the anxiety, or is my space around me making it worse?
Contributing. Yeah. Yeah, is it curing or is it contributing, dude? I love it.
Totally.
Dude, that's so good. Thank you so much for being on today. If you enjoyed today's show, I'd love for you to share it with somebody. Tag somebody that you're like, we were just talking about this. I know there's somebody that you're thinking of right now that was like, we were just talking about, is it better to have a clean spot or if it's better to leave things messy? If you can think of somebody, tag them in the comments of this video and do me a favor and share this episode with them. Thanks for so much for being on, Sean. Have a great week. We'll talk to you guys next Friday on the next Beautiful Mind Show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you want to get access to our 7-day Beautiful Minds Challenge, you can either comment below and just say 7-day, and I'll shoot you the information so you can get immediate access to that, or find me on any social media and just send me the message 7-day, and I'll make sure I get that out to you right away. And if you really enjoyed today's show, it would do me a huge favor if you went online, whether it was Spotify, Pandora, or iTunes, or any sort of podcast platform that you can find us on, and search for The Beautiful Mind Show, subscribe to our channel, and then make sure you give us a rating. Every time you give us a rating, it helps us get more eyeballs on our show and help more people have a more beautiful mind. Thanks again for joining us.